How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is the second episode of working on one of the Sema projects we have for the 2024 Sema show. And it is Alice's Toyota 86. Before we get started, if you do me a huge favor, go and hit that like button, consider subscribing to the channel. Definitely would appreciate it. And also follow our socials on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Links in the description below. Let's get started. So a quick introduction is this is Alice's Toyota 86. It's a 2019 model. This was I did do a DIY, or not a DIY, but an install video of the airlift air suspension setup about 2 years ago when I first started doing YouTube. But today we are doing some work in preparation for the 2024 Sema show. So far in the previous video, if you're watching, we stripped out the interior, getting everything ready for the audio install. And right now we are getting into beginning measurements of how we're gonna build the audio setup. So because of the space and limitations of the trunk area of the interior and the audio we want to do, which is we're using all Sony Car audio components and products, we decided to do the more painful way of installing, but it'll be a nicer finished product. So we're going to build a full audio system inside the car, leaving the trunk area more or less how it is. We figure for show purposes it is more of a wow factor. And yeah, right now we're just using some pieces of wood and mocking up, trying to get a visual idea of what we need to do to get this done. So we just need to we're using wood piece of MDF to kind of see what our flat plane is and what the level is, and seeing how things sit in the trunk to kind of figure out what we're going to do. We're going to do some measurements and kind of go from there.
A lot of boring math later.
All right, we did some preliminary measurements and a rough sketch. Apologize for that. It makes sense to us. Might not make sense to you, but it makes sense to us. So yeah, we're gonna cut some wood and keep going, but just wanted to give you the update. We did a lot of measurements and double measure, and this is kind of where we're at, just to start off, and then we'll get the other missing areas as we develop the other parts. So the first piece we're going to cut is the baseboard, which the box is going to sit on, and from there we can start building the box.
One pathetic sob story later.
So we've been at it pretty much half the day now, and we made some pretty good progress. Sorry I didn't get the camera rolling, totally forgot. I just got kind of in the groove and started working. So we have our table saw and router set up out, but I wanted to update you and show you what's going on with the car. So this is the back side of the trunk. We are currently still building. This is the back side of the box. And coming around inside, Steve is currently figuring out the angle in which to cut the face of the box. But if you see here, we have three sides of the box done, which is the top, the back, and the bottom. We're looking at the face, and then once we finish figuring out the face, we can cut the side pieces. Now we started mocking up the amp areas. We're just haven't decided what we're going to do, but just to get a visual to figure out how we're going to make the transition from the beauty board of the box down to the amp rack and all that. I'll come back to turn on the video once we figure out what we're going to do. Still figuring it out.
Yep, still figuring it out.
Have an idea, but it's dialing the fine measurements and stuff, because we'd rather measure 3 times and cut once than waste a whole lot of wood, which we've done in our earlier years.
Yep, I wasted a little bit of wood earlier this morning, but hey, it's always a learning process, right? Because this is custom enclosures. It's not a one-off product, and there's a little bit of R&D involved. And
oh yeah, this is more or less a one-off trunk setup. Don't ask for us to do this again.
yeah,
you're welcome, Alice.
well, we'll do it, but you might not want to pay the price.
All right, back to work.
Several bad puns later.
Okay, here's an update. I know it looks like we didn't do much since the last shot was from the back side, but I want to show you the front side. The box is now completed. The only thing we didn't do was seal the front face in for the fact being we need to use it towards our beauty board and all that, so we don't want to lock everything in just yet. It's easier just to use this as a reference point when you're cutting the windows for the beauty board in relation to the subwoofer. Trying something new on for the amp rack part. We have a science experiment going on underneath there. I don't want to touch it, it's still setting. You want to tell the audience what it is, Steve, or do you want to not say?
So because the tub has an interesting shape, it's going to be kind of interesting to build up for our amp rack and keep everything level. So trying something new. I'm thinking of expanding foam. This is kind of like, you know, like one of those fancy Amazon packaging things where you put your product inside a bag, you inflate it up, and it just boxes it, and then it seals around it. And so it should give us a nice foam template of the tub. So it should be lightweight. It should work well.
So if you notice, we haven't touched any of the wiring yet. There's a reason for that. We ordered everything Amazon Prime a few days ago, and it still has yet to show up. So Jeff Bezos, if you stumble across my 50 user channel, 50 subscriber channel, but thank you guys for supporting. Please send our stuff because we're waiting.
Yeah, you know, I pay extra for Prime. I expect it to be 2 days or less.
So yeah, we're just doing woodworking in the meantime to get as much progress as we can while we're waiting for other things.
2,000 years later.
We finally have parts that came in from Amazon, so I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the electrical of this car. First thing first is I have to pull the head unit to see what's behind it and what was ran previously. So let me get that done and I'll be right back. Also, to pull the stereo, it's pretty simple. You could do this by hand, or if you have a plastic wedge, which is what I prefer, so you don't nick or score anything. Just pop it in, a couple spots, pull, this whole facade pulls out, and then from there you just have 10mm bolts holding the head unit, which would be 4 of them.